instead of giving me a clip round the ear and saying, that won't wash in an exam, mate, went, brilliant. Never do more work than you have to. That was a really elegant solution. Brilliant.
So have you always been into, did you play cards with your mum and dad?
Yeah, so a lot of our holidays were in caravans in Wales, where the weather was very unreliable.
Yes.
So my main memory of our holidays in a little town called Abersoch are Elvis movies on the telly and games of cards.
Okay.
But we used to play something, I think it was called Sevens. I don't remember the rules of that now. And occasionally we'd meet another family and we'd all go to the same caravan at night. And that feeling of, as a kid, almost, do the grown-ups know we're still up?
Yeah.
This is exciting. Don't say anything or they'll send us to bed.
Yeah.
Keep doing your grown-up impression and play along.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
Yeah, I know. I didn't have that with cards, but I would sort of feign interest in Coronation Street just to eke it out a little bit of time. Just at the right time. Can you believe Jack Duckworth said that, Mum? I know. And then you could just eke it through.
The latest one I remember as a kid,
What's
I don't
the
know
latest
how old
you
I would
remember?
have been, but a real distinct memory of the Steve Davis-Dennis Taylor final in the World Snooker.
Yeah, these are you've set us so beautifully in the 80s.
Which, for my generation, it's the moon landing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everyone at school the next day was talking about it, and every single one of us had been allowed by our parents to stay up because they felt a sense of history.
Yeah.
And the idea that snooker could have been that at any point in our lives seems bizarre.
Well, that being said, but look at darts.
Yeah.
So look at the Renaissance darts has had. And it stands to reason there would have been kids that would have stayed up to watch Luke the Nuke.
Darts was on my long list.
Oh, right.
Darts is probably in 6th place. It didn't make my short list of 5. But I love darts. I love darts. I play darts. I played darts on tour before every show. I worked at a darts tournament once. For a minor cable channel, I was part of the presenting team of a tournament in Germany.
Wow. How did that come about?
I got asked, and I'm a huge fan of darts. So
we must have David Gorman.
Somebody knew I was a fan. It's a weekend in Germany with a load of darts players. Heaven. Absolutely up for it.
I bet the buffet was extraordinary at the hotel.
It was a remarkable few days.
Yeah, those guys aren't having smoked salmon and scrambled eggs. That's getting piled up.
No, it was a very...
Is the chocolate fountain working?
It was carb heavy.
Yeah.
I'll say that much. And they had... It's a specialist sport to cover.
Yeah.
Unlike any other sport, the camera is there before the action.
Yes.
So in football, the camera follows the ball.
Yes.
In darts, the camera zooms in on the part of the board that they think the darts player is going to throw at, which is sort of simple when it's treble 20, but gets more complicated when you get to outshots and how you're going to go down from 141 and whatever. And the way they film that is they have a spotter. It was normally Eric Bristow back in the day, or Keith Deller, and they can do all the maths, and they also know the individual players, and they are telling the director where that player is going to go based on his preferences and choices and whatever. They weren't supposed to work for Bravo because they had an exclusive contract with Sky, but you basically can't film darts without someone of that expertise. So they brought all the camera crew, everyone were people who weren't supposed to be there. It was all like top secret. Don't tell anyone at Sky. If Sky find out, we're going to be in trouble. And they had Eric behind the scenes. And at one point, because I wasn't doing it, when the game was on, I was sort of basically just waiting to do an interview or whatever. Somebody came through and said, put these headphones on. And I listened to the audio of Eric calling the game for the director. It was the most expletive-ridden... It was just hilarious, but he was just sort of like, he's going to go 19s, a fucking cunt. He ought to go 17s. He's not clever enough for that. A fucking idiot. He's going to fucking like what? And it was just like that isn't even his accent, but it was. No,
but to my knowledge, has that ever been done before? Where we've had sort of like jaded geniuses commentating on modern sports people.
But that,
can you imagine that?
That should be the director's commentary, but it's literally, it's just in-house for the cameraman, so they are zooming in on the right part of the board.
Yeah.
And you'd see the player sort of step back and weighing it up and holding their darts and doing the maths in their head. And half the time it takes them, Eric's got the answer. He knows what they're going to do. He knows what they should do and what they're going to do, and he tells everyone which is which. And he gets it right every single time.
It's changed slightly now because the world is very modern, and we now have lots of different. One of my favourite camera angles is when they do the slow motion on the player post shot. Because you very rarely get sort of rippling skin on sports players. Like you do a close up of Ronaldo after he celebrates, and things are taut.
Yeah.
But the ripple on a sports player is something else. It's just this beautiful dance.
Well, you don't see it as much in rugby anymore, do you?
No. Well, exactly. But it's sort of seeing the silk shirt trying to contain the majesty of the stomach. I love it. This.
I genuinely love it, and
have you always been into it? It's because it's so fascinating. Even hearing you talk about darts, straight away it became kind of mathematical, which obviously darts is. But your brain is, for a comic, it's very interesting because a lot of comedians are, more kind of like lyrical. But you've always been a kind of a mathematical guy.
I'd say analytical.
Analytical, yes.
But
you like patterns.
I like patterns, and that's what maths is full of. There are things in maths that I think are so elegant and so comic. There's a story. I'm going to say the wrong mathematician. It might be Euler, but it doesn't matter who it is. Somebody hundreds and hundreds of years ago who's playing up at school, and his teacher sends him out and says, come back in when you've added up the numbers from 1 to 100. And he goes out and he sort of comes in 10 seconds later with the answer. And the teacher hits him because you've cheated. Nobody can add up 1 to 100 that quickly. And what he did was go, well, 1 and 100 is 101, which means that 2 and 99 is also 101, which means that 3 and 98 is 101. You can keep going all the way until you get to 50 and 51. So there's 50 pairs of 101. So 50 times 101, there's your answer.
Wow.
And that's so elegant. And that's a comic's thought process. I can take all of this information and condense it into one simple statement. That's how a lot of jokes work.
It's a heckle comeback.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
But the most perfect heckle comeback to the answer.
Yeah. But that's so elegant and so lovely, and I find that beautiful. And it's got nothing to do with being good at numbers. That's about an elegance of thought process, which I like. There was a thing once in my school, so bog standard comprehensive.
Terrible name for a school.
Well, before that, I went to Harry Connick Jr. But it used to be very proud that they would get 2 or 3 kids into Oxbridge every year. And I was one of the kids that they sort of took aside into the deputy headmaster's office and said, we think you've got the potential to. And part of how they would do that, they had a very good maths department. And so certain kids, and I was one of them, did O-level a year early and then A-level a year early. And then when everyone else had done their A-levels, you did an AS level, which I'd never heard of. Whatever. And I was on that sort of stream. Didn't get into Oxbridge, by the way. But that's what I was sort of earmarked for. And during one of my lessons, there was a thing on the blackboard, really complicated letters and numbers, stuff I didn't understand at all, genuinely no understanding of it. And there were 3 potential answers. For sake of argument, let's say they were 24, 36, and 39. And the teacher said, does anyone know the answer? And somebody put their hand up, and he said, what is it? And he said, it's 24. And he said, no, it's not that. Anyone else? And I put my hand up, and he said, what's the answer? And I said, it's 36. And he said, brilliant, how did you know that? How did you work it out? I said, well, I didn't really work it out. The only thing I know is it starts with 2 times, and everything else is in brackets, so it's got to be even. And you've just told him it's not 24, so it's not 39, so it must be 36, which is sort of cheeky, which is not how you're supposed to work it out.
Yes.
And my, I think, brilliant maths teacher, instead of giving me a click round the ear and saying, that won't wash in an exam, mate, went, brilliant. That is how mathematicians are supposed to work. Never do more work than you have to. That was a really elegant solution. Brilliant.
Oh, great.
I thought, that is great teaching.
Yeah.
But that's what I like about it, is that sense of don't do more work, find the easiest path through.
Yes.
that's the elegance of thought that I like. I'm actually not very good with numbers.
Yes. But it's a really good thing, isn't it? Because broadly speaking, the quickest route is going to be the most elegant route. And that leads very nicely into stand-up, because the best jokes are the shortest and most elegant, or certainly the answer to the joke.
Yes. I think there's an equation where you can have a longer joke, but the longer it gets, the funnier it's got to be.
But
if
the
you're
answer has
making
to be
people wait a bit longer,
Yes, yes.
it's got to really deliver with
Yes.
punch. And
Arguably, some of your projects have been a very long joke.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But with jokes along the way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
You weren't like Freddie Starr
I
winding
wasn't
up
feeling
Muhammad
insulted.
Ali.
I think he understood, and I understood the tone
Yeah,
in
yeah,
which
yeah,
that was
yeah,
put.
yeah.
It's not. But yeah, I like sometimes on stage having a slight. God, he hasn't been funny for a little while, because I know that I'm about to. In a way, that can be unsettling and make them almost forget that that's what we're here for, and then it suddenly knocks them sideways again.
I love the idea that somebody sat in your audience and they just turn to their partner and go, "I feel unsettled." I think that'd be such a nice thing.